Welcome back to my kitchen. Thank you for joining me today. I thought I would show you how I make butter. I do it super easy. I use my blender. I actually used to use my KitchenAid, but it takes longer and we are off grid. So I want to use the fastest method, and so I choose to use my blender. This is a very old, junky blender, to be honest. It was like, I got it for free. It was like, I don't know, a $20 blender. Amazingly, it's held in there for quite a while, but I pretty much only use it for butter. Every once in a while I'll do a smoothie, but not too often. So I have got 2 quart jars of cream here. One thing about butter, making it from cream, when you skim your cream off your milk, you want to get the heaviest cream possible. So like in the past, when I first started doing this, I would try to get every ounce of the cream off my milk. And then I got too much milk in my cream. And then I would blend and blend and blend, or whip and whip and whip forever. And it just would never cross over to the butter. It would never cross over. I think, I can't fully remember, it's been forever. I can't remember if it would turn into whipped cream. I really can't remember that part. It's been so long. But I do know it never transferred over into the butter form because there was too much milk in it. So starting out, when you're first starting out making butter, get the heavy, thick, heavy cream until you get real successful. And then you kind of figure out, okay, I can get pretty close to that cream line without getting too much milk to make a bigger quantity of butter. But yes, in the beginning, I tried to get every ounce of the cream off of my milk, and it just wouldn't turn into butter. It just kept going and going and going forever and ever, and it just never transferred into the butter. So don't make that mistake. Starting off, for sure, go with the thick, heavy, heavy cream, and then you will have great success. So I am going to go ahead and pop this in my blender. You only want it about half full. You don't want your blender too full. You need to have that air in that room. So I always do about a quart in my blender. So I'm going to pop the lid on, and then I'm going to turn it on like medium on mine. Also, I always have a spatula on hand because I don't know how it works. This is a cheap blender, so I have to really work with mine. I think not all blenders, if you have a nice one, I think you don't have to help it much. And also lots of blenders, the fancy ones, have that stick to kind of push. Once it forms into the whipped cream, you want to get it pushed down there so it's all spinning and churning right. But once it gets to the heavy cream, I have to manually push it down. So you'll see me do it. But in fancier blenders, I don't think you have to do it, or you just do it with the little stick thing. You just push your whipped cream down to go beyond the whipped cream and transfer into butter. So here we go. Okay, so I timed it to get to the thick, creamy phase. I'll show you, like whipping cream. It's real thick now. I don't know if you can see. It took almost 2 minutes, not quite, but pretty close, like 1 minute and 40 seconds. So now I will. Now that's pretty thick, I don't really need my lid on because it's thick. It's not gonna like fly out. So I'll still start it initially with it on, just in case. Okay, so I just want to explain the reason why I'm going down the sides. I'm just cleaning off my sides, and it kind of just makes that stir while it's spinning. I'll turn it on in a minute. But so it gets really thick, and what happens is the thick heavy stuff sits on top, and then underneath it's all liquidy and it's just spinning like crazy down here, and all my thick stuff is not getting down to the bottom. So I have to do it this way. And like I said, fancier blenders may do it fine on their own. But also fancier blenders have that little stick thing, so you can do it too. Anyways, I've never had a fancy blender, so I don't know how great they work. If you can just not help them, you know, I'm not sure. But it's very simple. You just want to make sure you're pushing that thick stuff down, the whole thing thoroughly getting blended up so that you get butter from all of your cream, not just part of it. So here we go. I'll show you. Okay, pause here. You can see how it was starting to get a little bit more liquidy. Now it's getting very close to changing over into the butter. It's going to start getting watery, and then it's going to start bogging down because the butter is going to be starting to form and get heavy on the mixer at the bottom. So I'm just going to keep letting it go, still make sure stir it up a little bit, but it's almost to the butter form. Whoop. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on a higher mode because it's starting to bog out a little bit. Put the lid on because it's all watery and splashy from the buttermilk now. I'm going to turn it on 12 on high. Got a little messy because I forgot to put my lid on when I turned it back on, and once it's getting to that buttermilk form, it gets splashy again, especially when you just initially turn it on. So I will save my buttermilk. Clean up my area. Got a little bit messy. Okay, so here is my butter. There's all the butter formed. I will pull it out. Okay, and that whole process took like 3 minutes, so it's super fast. So now I am going to rinse my butter really well with cold water. Okay, so now I want to make sure my water is nice and cold. And then I am going to start rinsing my butter. Get all that buttermilk out of there. And you're just gonna, I usually just get a little bit of water in there and just kind of gently squeeze my butter. You're trying to get all the buttermilk out of your butter to make it last as long as possible. So you basically do this until your water starts coming clear. Sometimes I'll grab it and just kind of smush it and then fold it. Now, I don't get perfect on it because we use so much butter that, I mean, I'm going to get about a pound of butter from these 2 quarts, and it's going to be gone, you know, in a few days, to be honest. We use a lot of butter in this house for cooking and all sorts of things. So I do not do a perfect job. If you feel like you're going to have your butter for a while, store it in the fridge, first off, and then also just keep squishing it in that cold water, trying to get all the buttermilk out until your water down here is clear. Like, this is actually pretty good. You can see my water is actually very clear, but if I really wanted to try a little harder, I could go a little longer. But we use our butter so quick, I don't even stress about it that much, to be honest. So, and then you can salt your butter however much you'd like to do. Just do a little bit. And then you just kind of squish it in there. Try to evenly disperse all the salt. It will preserve your butter longer too. So salt is a great thing to do if you want your butter to last a little longer. I'm going to weigh this chunk of butter to see how much 1 quart gives. Now, one thing about this butter, it is very pale, and that's because the cows are not grazing yet. They're eating hay is what they're eating right now. So it's, you know hay. So when they're out grazing on those fresh green fields, we will get like bright gold butter, and it's amazing, and it's full of so many good things for you. But it's still homemade butter. It's still good. It's just pale right now. It's winter butter. Winter butter is pale. Unless you live somewhere where you can have your cows grazing year round. Okay, I'm going to see what this butter weighs. It is 8.5 ounces. So, what is that? 16 ounces would be a pound. So it's half a pound. So about 2 quarts of cream makes a pound of butter. So all I'm going to do is pop it right into my butter dish. And I'll pop my other ball on the other side, and then my butter dish will be full for the week. And this is really great spreadable butter too. So now I could put it, if I put it in the fridge, it would get hard, right? So anyways, but yeah. So there it is. I will finish off my butter. Or I will finish making the rest of my cream into butter. Something I forgot to mention was I had it on like medium when it was churning and turning my butter into the whipped cream phase. And then once it hit that whipped cream phase and it was kind of transferring into the butter, I could hear it bogging down. And so I hit it up to high. And then I just kept watching it for a bit, because then once it hits that butter phase, then it goes pretty quick and you don't want to bog out your motor. So I turned it on high and I watched it real good, and then I pulled it out. So called it good. Okay, just a recap on butter. So pour your heavy cream into your blender about half full. Have it on medium speed. It's going to blend for about a couple of minutes, but it could be faster for yours. And then you will hear a change. You'll just hear this change in your motor and just the whole blender. And then I pop the lid off. And so once you see that it's not spinning anymore, you know, not mixing, and it's just kind of solid on top, that's when I know, okay, I need to start scraping my sides down and pushing that whipped cream down, because you want the whole thing mixing. So at that point, that's when you take the lid off and you start pushing it down, making sure it's all mixing up. And then once it gets to the butter form, it's going to turn, instead of thick and heavy, it's going to turn sloshy. Let me see if I can show you real quick. It's going to turn sloshy. You can see the butter floating in there. and the wateriness around it, that is the buttermilk. So it's going to turn sloshy and clumpy. The clumps are the butter, and the sloshiness is buttermilk. So once you see that sloshiness, and you'll hear it, and you'll see it, because at this point you're going to be pushing it down. So you'll see it get watery and sloshy, and you're going to have these clumps floating around. That's your butter, and that's when you know, okay, it's done and it's ready. So then you do the next steps, as I do, you know. Pour off your buttermilk, save your buttermilk. It's amazing for any type of baking, even just drinking it straight. I used to do that all the time. Now we have so much milk, it's not like a special treat like it used to be. We used to be a lot more stingy about our milk, and now we have so much that the kids are just like drinking milk whenever they want. So they choose the milk over the buttermilk, but you can totally drink it. I will strain off my buttermilk and then do the other steps like I just showed you. Rinse it in cold water and salt it, and then it's done and it's good to go. And you can store it in your fridge, you can store it in the freezer if you want it to last a long time. We go through the butter so quick that there's no point. I just leave it on the counter now because we whip through butter. So anyways, and then one other thing I wanted to say, I used to use, I don't think I clarified it really well. I used to use a KitchenAid mixer to make my butter, and that was completely hands off for me. All I did was just poured my cream in my hand mixer, turned it on high or medium. It doesn't really matter. You just want to watch it so it's not going so fast that it's splashing over your bowl, right? So you just kind of watch it, like slowly build it up. But if you can get to high, cool. If it's medium, it's perfectly fine. Anyways, so yeah, so I used to use KitchenAid, and all I would do is drape a cloth over my KitchenAid because it's just going to do its thing. It's just going to work away. It's going to take a lot longer than a blender. I want to say like 30 minutes, but I can't totally remember. It's been a while. So since we've moved back here, I have not used my KitchenAid because it just draws too much power. It takes too long. And I'd cover it with a towel and I would just leave it. It would totally do its thing until I'd start hearing this swishing around, like this really watery splashing sound. And then my towel would start getting wet because it would have turned to butter, and the buttermilk was starting to splash out of the bowl. At that point, then I would know, okay, my butter's done. Take it out and do the whole rinsing water thing. So yeah, so KitchenAid, when I did the KitchenAid, it was totally hands-free. It's just going to take a little longer. So you can do the KitchenAid mixer, you can do blender, you can do, one thing I do notice the difference between my blender and a KitchenAid. The KitchenAid butter comes out a little bit harder. The blender almost whips it up slightly. Almost turns it into almost like a whipped butter, but it does harden. If I stick in the fridge, it's hard for sure. But I did notice with my KitchenAid, it was a little more like the typical butter consistency. With my blender, it's more of a whipped butter consistency, a little bit. But I mean, butter's butter, so I like it either way. So you can do the blender, you can do the KitchenAid, you can do shaking it by hand in a jar. The biggest thing is you just want it about half full, so it's got lots of space to shake and mix, because the more space there is, the faster it's going to go. Same with my KitchenAid. I probably pushed it a little bit when I filled it so full. I would do like 3/4 full of the bowl. So I think that slowed it down as well. So if you do like half the bowl, it's probably going to go a little bit faster, because the higher speed you can kick it up to and the more room it can really mix around without spilling over, it will go a lot quicker. So there's that too. But I was always like pushed it to the edge. So I always did like 3/4 full of the bowl, maybe even a little bit more. It was always pushed too much. But I've really learned that trick, that if you go half full, it's going to go a lot quicker and a lot better. So anyways, that's that. Super easy way to make butter. Like all within less than 5 minutes when it comes to a blender. And we have fresh butter from our cows, which feels really amazing. The more things that I can make myself to replace from the grocery store feels so good. It is like, it's my goal in life to be able to replace practically everything from the grocery store. I would love that if everything came off our farm. But for the majority, we're doing pretty good. So, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming along with me. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you go home and you try to make butter. Even if you buy some heavy cream from the store, just for the fun of it, make some butter. Make it with your kids. Shake it in a jar. They'll have a blast seeing that cream turn into butter. I remember when I was a kid in a homeschooling group, we did that, and it just stood out like crazy to me. I could not believe cream you could get butter from cream. Like, I was just shocked. I was blown away. And it was such a cool thing. So it might be fun just to get a jug of heavy cream and turn it into butter with your little ones. So anyways, I hope you guys have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.